All right, so let me share my screen so that way you can see, or we can see the same thing together.
Hmm.
There we go. Pull up the coaching notes. Let me know if you can see this. Screen one, why is
Let's
that? There
see.
we go, perfect. Oh, why am I have another, I have another thing open. Ah, that would make sense. I had another tab open, there we go. All right,
Great. Yeah, I see it. Wait, do you use Opera as your browser?
yeah.
Dang, I've never met some. That's pretty cool.
Because I like that it's Chromium based, but it's not as much of a memory hog as like Chrome.
Okay.
Because there's a bunch of Chrome extensions, if you can tell, that I like to use. I could probably
Yeah,
find the
yeah.
equivalent one. There's a bunch of other reasons, but that's one of the main reasons. I could probably use Firefox or Brave or any of the other ones, but I just chose to just use Opera just because I also like the built-in widgets.
Yeah, wait, that's super convenient.
Yeah,
Is it still paid or is it free?
Opera, it's free.
Oh,
Yeah,
sick. For
yeah,
some reason I thought it was paid.
really.
Dang, that's cra All right. All right. Anyways, that's crazy.
Dope. Um, so like you said before, you were having issues with Chic, but I think it's better if we focused on more so kind of your mentality behind the game first and foremost before we actually get
Mhm.
into any of the more matchup dependent material.
Yeah.
Because typically, I mean, like I said before, I've had similar feelings, and I still have the same feelings about grinding tech skill and kind of basically getting to the point where I'm not going to sit down and practice this for an hour, 2 hours every day to get it to be solidified. Like that
Hmm.
specific tech in particular, like you said, like you literally have the section down here, which I find hilarious, which is techniques I gave up on, ledge dashes and empty pivots,
Yeah.
which is great. And now I'll say right immediately is that empty pivots, I don't think anyone really uses it.
Uh-huh.
At least not as much as you necessarily need to. Like Gatsu uses them. Wizzy, you notice Wizzy never even uses them.
Hmm.
SUJ doesn't use them. None doesn't use them, and pretty much no one actually uses them
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they're not necessary in in most situations. Now, maybe in specific scenarios, an empty pivot would have been the optimal thing to choose, but majority of the time, it's usually not necessary, like or even probably a good option in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ledge dashes in particular, that's something that as well you can, because we're Falcon, you don't really need to have a decent ledge dash. You just need to mix up what you do. It's like, okay, a lot of times people will do the exact same. You obviously already know this, but a lot of people do the same timings off ledge. They'll do the same option.
Hmm.
They'll do the same whatever, right? But really, you can choose between like doing a hack slash double jump, a ledge dash, or an aerial, and that pretty much covers you for like 95% of the time, as long as you choose
Hmm.
not to do it immediately once you grab ledge every single time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is one thing I feel like is an understated thing about just getting off ledge. Is it's like I need to be able to ledge dash perfectly every time. It's like no, you don't really have to. You just need to be able to mix it up enough that your opponent can't execution test you at the same time and get
Hmm.
away with it, right?
Yeah.
But all right, getting back to what I was actually going to talk about is in particular your kind of idea of how I think you set it up here about you kind of don't necessarily like spending the time to grinding melee pretty much.
Hmm.
The thing is with melee, at the end of the day, you really do need to have your technique, your technical skill solidified. You can't go into a game
Yeah.
and necessarily be missing like a simple wave dash back. But there's
Yeah.
ways of making it so that you're more consistent with the tech, as well as ways to practice it without it being extremely tedious.
Hmm.
The way to make it more consistent is stuff like adding in things like shield pivots. Shield pivots are a great way for you to not have to rely on actual pivots or empty pivots. And the
Uh-huh.
beauty with Falcon is that majority of the time when you do a pivot, you're going to be jumping. So at worst, you maybe lose like 2 frames. And yes,
Yeah.
that can make a difference in certain situations, but majority of the time, it's going to help you be more. It's better that you're consistent and off by a frame or two than it is that you're inconsistent and you occasionally get it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Like, so when you say shield pivot, is that like in your dash, turn around, shield, instantly jump out of shield?
yes.
Or okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that in particular, especially since I mean, I personally feel like the unless you play on a box controller, there's no necessity. There's no like it's not really necessary for you to do pivots with a controller. It's not even really consistently feasible at our level or our ability to acquire controllers, right? It's like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I'm either going to have a controller that's amazing at pivots, but then it's horrible at all this other things. Oh, it has snapback. Oh, it has this and that. And then so it's one of those techniques that I'm glad I didn't really try to iron out. I tried to when I was really, really early on, but I
Mhm.
quickly realized I'm like, this is so inconsistent. And I noticed, I forget who it was, but I saw someone doing shield pivot and I was like, oh my God, that makes things way more easy, but it also adds in more inputs and also more uh, certain situations like having to do a shield pivot and then jumping backwards is more difficult now because you now have to like you have to jump and then let go of shield and a bunch of other things, right?
Yeah.
But it in the end, I still felt that I was able to be a little bit slower and still get pretty much what I wanted instead of missing my pivot and now my drift is off because I'm like dash forward for a frame and then wave dash back or jump backwards, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that really helped with those kind of situations. But besides that, besides, you know, adding in stuff like shield pivots or something that can help you be more consistent on things that are traditionally like frame perfect inputs, we can go into more later, but that's like a big one in particular. Another thing is more so on the side of actually practicing the techniques is with tech skill in particular, you can practice that however you like. There's not necessarily, you don't necessarily need to sit down and put and shoot up or put on, you know, Uncle Punch and, you know, drill doing ledge dashes or hack dashes. You don't necessarily need to do that. And I honestly feel like that really removes a large portion of the enjoyment that comes from Melee. I find it's almost better to just go on ranked, play versus shittier players, you know, no offense to them, but worse players,
Sure.
and just spam that while you're playing them.
Hmm.
And that way, you know, you can focus on a particular movement option while there's pressure. Now, it might not be, you know, tournament pressure, or it might not be, you know, a good player who's pressuring you, but it's enough pressure that it's more than just you doing it in Uncle Punch where you're like, oh, I messed up, it's fine. So there's a bit
Yeah.
more active pressure, and at the same time, you're not just stuck doing that only thing. It comes up more naturally, and you actually work on that specific technique. Now, that being said,
Yeah, that I was gonna say that makes sense because I feel like a lot of times like there have been some techniques that I've practiced in a specific way on Uncle Punch, and then after a couple of weeks of doing it, when I'm actually playing friendlies, I realize just like the way the situation comes up, my fingers are in a different position or something like that. And because I've been practicing on Uncle Punch, I didn't notice it. But if I'm on like unranked and there's actually another person who's doing normal person movements, um, maybe that'll be better for just like I don't know, recognizing real situations that I'm using the tech in rather than like the training lab.
the training lab, yeah, exactly. That a training lab is great for getting down the idea behind the like the execution and also like partially solidifying the underlying like muscle memory behind it. But to actually be able to execute it properly, you have to start doing it in situations where you're pressured.
Yeah.
And that really just comes down to and the thing is I think what I did when I really started to improve on specific techniques like dash at a crouch and just even like hack sashing, which I wasn't the greatest at, I just played only on ranked, and I'd find players who were, you know, considerably worse, but I'd be able to just focus on doing that with having a little bit of pressure, but not enough that I'm like, okay, if I miss this ledge dash, I lose the game kind of situation, right? It's like, oh, I miss this
Yeah,
ledge dash, I
yeah.
lose a stock, but it's like, at least there's some type of, you know, even though it's maybe not the most overwhelming pressure, it's some type of arbitrary pressure to kind of keep me, you know, in the certain state of mind that's necessary for me to actually perform it when it actually comes to the time when I need to perform it in a tournament, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's not a 1-to-1, but it's considerably better than like Uncle Punch or whatever, right? Besides that, though, I was also going to say that when you do practice these specific techniques that you're, you know, you're not the best at, especially ones that you haven't even really uh, uh, like put into your play or into your move sets or whatever, like something you actually haven't incorporated yet, it's best, and I always say it's always best to focus on one thing when you're practicing in that session. So for instance, let's say you boot up unranked, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times people are like, they ask me, I'm like, how do I incorporate crouch canceling? And well, what I
Mm-hmm.
say, and I do some drills. One drill is I don't shield at all, and I only crouch cancel. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you're definitely going to get blown up, especially if you play versus like a Falco. But the idea is that you can start to get an understanding of how crouch canceling works, and you can also then start moving out of it. Now, it's a little bit silly, and that's why I recommend doing it on like unranked, where someone will just quit out if they're just like, what is this guy? He's not even shielding. But
Yeah.
it gets the idea of you incorporating an actual match and actually doing things out of it. Because that's the one thing as well with Uncle Punch is that you'll be doing things in isolation. And it's like, once you do that technique, a lot of people are like, oh, I did the technique. And then they completely forget that there's an entire game left to be played and an entire
Yeah.
opponent that goes along with, along with the equation. So being able to just isolate a specific option, but also keep the feel of the game with it afterwards is really important. That helps you kind of incorporate like something into your play, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way to practice it. With particularly like ledge dashes, that's something that's a little bit, you just kind of have to just do them more, and you have to be more
Yeah.
willing to mess it up, right? And really think about like if you have the time, and we can do it here. Potentially, you've tried to do a ledge dash in one of these sets, and we can maybe look at what happened. It's like, oh, I jumped too early, oh, I whatever, and then that's when you go to
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Punch for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and you practice it. No more than that. Like you don't
Yeah.
even need to do much. It's the quality and the focus is what matters when you practice things, and
Mm-hmm.
the distribution in which you do so. A lot of people, and I know I was definitely, I felt privy to this, was I'd boot up, even 20XX 3.02 when it came out, I'd boot it up for like an hour and a half or 2 hours straight, and I'd just be
Yeah.
tech chasing a
Yeah.
CPU, and then I'd be thinking I'm like getting better, and in actuality, I'm more times than not, I'm actually just solidifying bad muscle memory instead of
Mm-hmm.
actually like furthering my muscle memory in a positive way. I'm actually doing more harm than good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in particular with like those kind of techniques, you just have to just be willing to do them more and put in a bit of time. Like at most, if you really do want to do solo practice, which I don't necessarily think you really need to, as long as your
Mm-hmm.
muscle memory is there and you're confident enough that you can iron it out while you play versus people, 10 to 15 minutes at most every day is really all you need in order to kind of get better. And as time goes on, you'll start to see, oh, I'm jumping too early. Oh, I'm letting go of ledge too early. Oh, this and that. And you start to things start to click, right?
Mm-hmm.
Besides that,
Yeah, sorry. I like just like brain dumped a lot in here.
no, yeah,
Oh,
no,
also, I think if you want, I think you should have editing powers now, not just
yeah, I
like
do. I
suggested.
think I do. I typed
Okay,
before.
cool.
It's just making a comment every time. I don't know. I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
suggesting.
try like refreshing it. Okay.
There
I
we
think it
go.
should be good
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Okay, perfect. Um, there's definitely a lot here.
Yeah. Um.
1 second.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want me to know what's going on?
No, I'm currently doing a lesson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, Mom. I muted or I didn't mute everything. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. My mom just came in to give me some tea. Um, mhm. Mhm. Okay. No, definitely. Entirely what analysis is for. Especially when, like you said yourself, it's you don't have an idea why you're losing neutral in the first place, right? Um, and I think at the before we go into any of this, which again I don't necessarily not saying that these are bad notes, but I don't think there's a necessarily going to be as helpful to us, except like instead of just looking at the actual videos, right? These are a thing is with notes in particular is that notes are amazing for the most part as long as you have significance behind them. They're amazing for yourself, but when I look at them particularly, I I it's a thing. I can only have so much meaning behind it without asking you everything about it, right? But it's good that you've written down these notes in particular because that's it's always good to question, and that's one thing I always try to have people do is if you want to improve a melee, you need to be inquisitive. You need to be curious. You need to always be asking why something happened, determine or figure out why it happened, and increase the speed at which that happens. Because melee is all about like I have this thing I say with rhythmic reactionary memorization game essentially, right? Like I always mix up those three terms, but essentially the idea is that there's specific situations that you rhythmically react to, and you have to know what they are, right? And the ability to more quickly deduce what the situation is, the faster you'll be able to, or the better you'll be able to actually adapt, and as well as just you'll be a faster player. The reason the best players in the world are the best players, besides their consistency, is how fast they're able to see certain situations and act on them, right? They'll look at a situation and they'll immediately know what happened. Even if it's a very niche situation, they'll almost immediately be able to just look at it and be like, oh, this happened. Unless it's something completely crazy in which they've never seen it before, like some crazy, I don't know, phantom bullshit. It's something, I don't even know. I can't even think of something at the moment, but some crazy situation, right? But essentially, the idea is you have to be able to act quicker or understand things faster. And the only way to do that is to ask yourself questions more and more and more. And eventually you start to remember things, and then you eventually start to click things. Everything's kind of connected to one thing to another thing. And you start to develop these patterns, right? It's just simple neuroplasticity, simple cognitive learning, right? But especially with melee, it's something you have to be quick at. And that's what makes the best players the best players. But without, I think I've done enough rambling. I think it's better if we actually get into a specific set. And for this one in particular? Oh, I vastly prefer YouTube VOD. Yes, vastly. More so just for like hotkeys, like arrow keys and frame by frame and whatnot, like using the period and comma. Those are amazing for analysis. Oh, just DM it to me is probably preferred. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay. And there we go. Full screen. I gotta make there we go. Make that smaller. Let's do 720p. I'm hoping I am at home now. I'm not on fiber anymore. So far, nothing's dropped. No frames have dropped. Looks like we're pretty okay. So I'm going to try and do 720p. If it ever looks kind of janky on your end, let me know. It should be fine on the stream itself, like on the recording. But again, just let me know. Actually, without even going into this, because I always have to ask, and it's a very vague question for a reason, but just bear with me. What's your game plan in the Sheik matchup? Okay. That's okay. But applying it.
Have grabbed him, but I wasn't and got F tilted. You know.
Yeah,
So.
makes sense.
But
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Basically, avoid getting tech chased, and try and grab or stomp them. Um, yeah, and typically getting grabs is reading. Yeah, I feel like it's either I have to make a read on them coming in or a read on them going out, which maybe is not good.
Yeah, I don't.
Probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably not the idea you want to go behind.
Yeah.
Go with.
Yeah, but that's definitely how I like think about it right now.
I do want to say that the idea behind the initial few things you said, where you said avoid grab and I want to get a grab or a stomp, those are kind of the idea. That's kind of what I think of it. But I kind of I go further with that, and I like to think of every matchup with two things. What do I want and what do I not want? And the same applies for the opponent. What do they want and what do I not want? And usually what I want is what they don't want and vice versa, right? So you already said basically what you both want and kind of what you don't want to have happen. And then you didn't necessarily apply what Omar doesn't want to happen, which is, I guess, the same as being stomped or grabbed. That can also be extended further to just overall understanding of not attacking in disadvantage, essentially. But the underlying aspect of it is that you really want to avoid those specific situations. And we're going to see those, definitely see those situations and how you could have avoided them, but you didn't, right? And how Omar could have avoided them or whatever, right? But the point is that I want you to keep that in the back of the mind, which you already have, which is perfect, about these kind of understanding of what I want and what I don't want and vice versa. Because I apply that to every single matchup, and I think that's the easiest way to do it. And that's literally what I do with Falco. And you literally, like, people ask me, how do I beat Falco? And it's like, well, I just avoid getting shined. And if Falco can't get a shine, then you pretty much win. And really what it comes down to in that matchup is just switching up roll and wave dash at a shield and jump at a shield effectively. And that way you just won't ever get shine. That's easier said than done. But the whole point is that if you can avoid shine, that matchup is a lot easier. And same with this matchup. If you can avoid grab or at least get out of grab easier, the matchup's a lot easier. But again, that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Without further ado. Okay, so light cut there.
Yeah.
CC gentlemen. Oh, see, that's the thing. Once you kind of get those, that's one thing also I noticed a lot of Falcons miss. It's like you get a nice hit, but then you don't push off of it. You ran away.
Okay.
I mean, justifiably so you did, because you were scared that he might have been able to essentially CC it afterwards. But even then, like, you caught him enough. If you're catching him at 0 with gentlemen and he's not grabbing you off the first 2 hits, more likely not he's not gonna punish you for the third one. And so one thing in general is it's almost like you got the gentleman, but then you were like, you weren't sure about the situation. And like, I almost immediately saw you got the gentleman and I was thinking dash to the right and grab him, or dash and stomp or whatever, right? Something to apply more pressure, because again, more likely than not, if you're going to get that gentleman and you're going to get grabbed between the two, like the first 2 or between the 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 of the jabs. And if you don't, there's more likely than not that they didn't hold down.
Yeah,
that's actually a really good CC gentleman, actually, because you caught him right between the up tilt.
I think because going for grab there, the second hit of up tilt kind of screws you up.
Yeah,
like when I watch,
you can't whiff. You can't whiff punish it, because you're basically whiff punishing the first up tilt, and then the second part of it hits you, and then you end up getting grabbed for it.
Yeah, and yeah, I just want to say, like, I think it's I notice it the most against Spacies is I'll get in these scramble situations where I get an advantage situation, but even though I'm advantaged, I immediately bail out just because I'm not comfortable in those scramble like close-up situations, which obviously I just need to like get over. But
Yeah, though. So to get over that, I've been there before. To get over that, you have to. So those kind of hard habits, there's two ways of breaking them. The harder way is to actively notice yourself when you're playing. You're going into a session with a spacey player, and you're actively thinking in the back of your head, which is difficult when you play Melee because you can't necessarily actively think. It's a very instinctual game. You have to actively look for, like, when you're in a scramble and think, okay, I'm just going to jump after, like, I'm going to short hop stomp after my gentleman, or I'm going to short hop, knee after my CC. Like, you have to actively catch yourself in the act and then try to fix it. The first way to do that, in which you've already done it, is in VOD analysis. That's kind of the idea has been laid, which is what needs to be done in the first place. Because obviously in anything you need to be able to know what you're doing wrong in order to apply it. But now that seed has been laid, you then have to set up, go out on ranked or play someone and have that idea in the back of your head as one of the things that you need to work on, and only that thing. You're thinking at that moment in your session, I'm in close quarters combat, I'm going to be aggressive after. And it's one of those things you have to catch yourself. That's a much harder thing to do. The easier thing to do, which takes more time, is to take a break, and then when you come back, you're more refreshed and you're less likely to actually fall, do that habit. But again, the thing is that's not consistent, though. That's the issue, because it's like you may or may not fall back on that bad habit. But personally, the way to really do it is you have to think about that one thing. And like I said, you only work on one thing at a time, and that would be your one thing at a time that you're working with or for in that session, and you're actively trying to catch it. And the best way to kind of keep yourself actively doing that is to, a lazy way would be to have like a note on like, if you have a second monitor, just have a note every time you look at, like, every time you're on the top, like on Angel platform, you just look over to your right and try and, you might see it and then you might remember it, right? Because it's very easy to just start playing and you forget what you're actually trying to work for, right?
That's funny that from what you were talking about earlier, I had already kind of mentally thought of the like you said, the note thing, and I might even try and set a some sort of like 2-minute alarm that every time it goes off, then like it'll just kind of jar me. Remember, like, I'm playing not to beat this unranked person, but to practice
this
like,
technique,
low percent, like gentleman into something.
Exactly. That's the kind of thing you need to do if you really want to break these habits. You can break them like without that. It just takes a lot longer. And it all depends on your ability to really, kind of focus up, because that's one thing a lot of people, like, Melee is a very ADHD kind of game. Everything's just happening, right? And it's very hard a lot of times too, because people will play when they're not necessarily wanting to play. And that's also one thing I want to say, which is extremely important. You've probably heard of it before, but with Melee or anything you want to improve in, you have to be having fun and enjoying your time while you're playing. If you're practicing. If you're in tournament, it's a different story, because in tournament anything goes, and that sometimes you need to just power through. But and sometimes also in friendlies you want to too. But if you're trying to improve and your goal isn't necessarily to break through and work on your C game or work on your mentality necessarily, but it's to actually practice specific techniques, you need to be enjoying your time while you're doing it. Otherwise, you're just going to be falling into autopilot and you're going to start building bad habits. You're not actually going to be practicing what you necessarily need to do. So I always recommend people to take the second before they play, while they're playing, whenever they can remember. I mean, having an alarm is perfect. And try to really think, am I enjoying playing Melee at this moment? And again, if your goal is to improve or to incorporate a technique and you're not having fun, stop playing.
Yeah. Okay.
Just straight up, like, say, "Oh, I'm sorry," or if you're on a rank, quit out. If you're playing with somebody else, just say, "I don't want to play right now," whatever. Because at the end of the day, you're not actually going to help yourself improve, and you're just wasting your time. And so that's really something that's very, very, very important at the end of the day, is think, okay, am I having fun? Yes or no? And obviously either answer gets, your result.
Cool.
Besides that, we were talking about the timer, right? So the timers, that's a good idea. I've actually never necessarily thought of using a timer, but that's a good idea, because that kind of keeps you like fresh, so to speak, and really keeps you on track of what you're doing. And again, it's a more enjoyable way to incorporate things than, necessarily just grinding things out in Uncle Punch. And I think it's also a better way too, right? You're actually incorporating it real time. And I think a lot of people overstate the importance of solo practice once you have a decent fundamentals and tech skill, which I know you do. I've played you before. I know you're good enough that you don't necessarily need to be grinding a majority of the tech skill. Maybe a few things here and there, like we said, like ledge dashes and whatnot. But majority of your tech skill, it seems to be fine. It's more so habitual things, right? Or situational things. And you don't necessarily need Uncle Punch. Players like Santiago, Falco player, never even had a setup. And he became one of the best.
Crazy.
He became top 30 players with Falco, right? So you don't need to have a setup. You just need to be able to apply. You need to be able to focus, right? You need to be able to apply your time effectively, which a lot of melee players are not good at. A lot of people play the game just to get away and not have to think about life, which is, you do you, but at the end of the day, if your goal, like in your situation, is to improve, you need to put in the focus, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And if you ever have any issues, or if you want to talk about it later on, about how to improve focus and how to improve stamina, we can also talk about that during this or in DMs or whatever. Because that's a whole other thing. And I think that it's better that we focus more on the actual gameplay for now, and then we can come back to that. But yeah, definitely like I said, incorporate the timer and focus on like that one specific situation, and you'll see it'll improve over time.
Here, wait, before we get into it, my roommate just got back and I haven't seen him in like 3 weeks. So I'm going to briefly say hi and then I'll be back.
Go for it. Take your time.
Thanks, man. All right, back.
Awesome. All right. All right, you good to go?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, not a bad nair. So this is the one thing you don't want to do. You don't want the idea with crouch canceling is you don't want to be holding crouch canceling. You don't want to hold it. There's very few situations where you're just going to be holding it outside of like raw tech chasing. Because you're telegraphing what you're trying to do. And in this situation, it's very easy for him to just ASDI down. I mean, he didn't here, but it's very easy for him ASDI down and just grab you anyways out of whatever you're going to do. Or even shield and reaction if you're going to stomp, for instance. Or in this case, he ended up hitting your option out of it because you're limited. You're stuck in a situation where, yes, you can dash out. Yes, you can jump out of it. But it's much easier to hit a stationary object, especially a Sheik, than it is to hit a moving object, which is like what Falcon's whole idea is. You're supposed to be moving, you're supposed to be active, you're supposed to be agile, right? So when you do something like this, you have the idea in your mind, but the execution at the end of the day is too telegraphed.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's like you have, what is that? Like he can walk up, he sees you're crouching, like he doesn't have all the time in the world to react. But he's like, oh, he's stationary. So I'm just going to throw out something that's walling. I can just hold down at the same time. Even if he runs in and grabs me, there's more likely than not that I'm probably going to catch him and I'm probably going to get a grab. In this case, he tries to go for the forward tilt after the up tilt and tries to go for grab. You do a really good roll, which is great. And then here's where you need to crouch cancel or ASDI down.
Yes.
So you immediately roll and you're in a situation where you're in a disadvantage. And the thing is you're not in a situation where you can act out of it. The only things you can really do here is either roll again or hold down. If you hold down, you can easily get a punish. or not easy, but you can definitely get a
You can
punish.
grab that.
You can grab
Yeah.
that. Whereas in this case, now you're screwed. You get forward tilted,
Yeah.
and then now you're in an awkward spot. Now you're in the worst position, or the position that a lot of melee players hate, which is when you get hit with a move, but you don't get knocked down by it, but you think you're going to get knocked down by it, which is exactly what happens here. You get F tilted once, which you're not knocked down, but then you're in an awkward position, and you held down, which is great, and then you shielded, which is fine. I don't actually think that was bad. No, you did okay afterwards, but you definitely should have just been shielding the first one, or the crouch cancel the first
I'm
one.
not even. I don't know what I was going for the first time. But yeah, it definitely was not the move.
I could bet. Now, this isn't saying that you actually were thinking this or feeling this, but I bet you were like, I'm gonna try and nair. Or I'm gonna try and
try and
aerial.
hold space.
And you know what I mean. And you're not in a situation where you can attack. Falcon has to attack first a lot of the time,
Yeah.
or at least you have to attack right after they attack. You can't attack at the same time because all your moves are slower than their moves, especially Sheik, and all our moves are grounded. So if you attack same timing, you're just gonna get popped up, and she has all the tools in the world to deal with you.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to either with Punisher, in a sense of either crouch canceling or somehow weaving in after she does a move, which is more difficult than just crouch canceling, especially in this spacing. Or you're gonna have to throw it out first and then catch her even before she's throwing something out, which is what I try to do a lot against Sheik. I try to mix in between either hitting her just after she's thrown something out, or having her hit me, or hitting her like either before or during or just before, right? That's kind of the three situations. Easiest for crouch canceling is during. Easiest for like weaving in with a knee is trying to hit them just after they've thrown something out. And then usually when they're in the air is when I try to hit them just before. If that makes any sense. So like approaching, I try to do it when they just threw out a move. When they're in the air, I try to do it before they've thrown out the move, and then during is when you crouch cancel, essentially. Because if you're in the air, you can hit them afterwards, but I typically find it's easier to just cut them off, kind of like how you would cut off, like, I don't know, if you're close with a Marth and you somehow nared, like you're both like basically same spacing, and you nared first, and then Marth tried to nair or something, and you beat them with your nair. That's the kind of idea, except more so. Maybe not not right in front of each other, but that's kind of the idea of how I think of it. But at the end of the day, you can get a lot off of, excusing all of that, what I said, you can get a lot off of just holding down when you're close to Sheik. And doing it in a way that, like I said, isn't you kind of standing still. You really want to do it when basically that's what you have to do. Right? It's like, I'm close to Sheik. I have a feeling she's going to throw something out, either a dash attack or forward tilt. I'm just going to hold down. I can shield, which is fine. A lot of times if I'm not confident in my spacing, like if I feel like I'm too far away, then I will do shield. Even though I can just dash up and grab, I'll shield just because. And also I'm just trying to feel out what they like to do. That being said, there's a lot of situations, this is what I want to talk about, and I talk about a decent amount. There's a lot of situations that come up in Melee that people choose the same options for. A good example of this is like on Wake Up. A lot of people, like say for Spacies, a lot of them will do Spot Dodge or Shine, which, like, let's say for instance, you're going for a tech chase and you're late to the tech chase and they're able to wake up before you're able to get a grab. A lot of the times Spacies will do a Spot Dodge or a Shine. This is a very common option, right? And this is kind of options that I think about, or I have had think about, and I know subconsciously that I'm aware of, and I look out for those options. And whenever they deviate from them, I keep note of that, and that's how you adapt.
Okay.
That's kind of the idea of adapting in Melee. Is you have this framework of common situations in which people do certain things, and from there, if they deviate from it, you make that adjustment. And the beauty of it in fighting games that typically like people will do one option that beats you in that situation, and they'll do it again. And so what's awesome about that is that, oh man, I was late to the punish and I ended up getting shined or spot dodge. The thing is, they're going to do that again. There's no reason for them to turn on up tilt or dash away and then fade back in bear. They're more likely not going to do the same options, even the best of the best. That being said, as you get better and better, people start to mix it up more and more. But the thing is, the also beauty of Melee, and more so specifically Falcon, is a lot of times if you throw out moves at a certain timing, you end up catching two of the same options. Like up tilt, shine, and spot dodge, you can just knee that a lot of times, and it covers all of them, right? As long as you do the proper spacing for the up tilt. But for the shine and the spot dodge, you can space them the same way and without spacing for the up tilt, and you beat that option, right? So same thing goes for a lot of different situations in Melee. So I want you to kind of think about that as we're going on, if we can kind of see anything that you might notice that a lot of Sheiks do in particular, and maybe how Omar likes to, like how Omar deviates from that. But yeah, you CC afterwards. You shielded accidentally and you rolled, which is honestly, I think, the best thing to do here, because you can't knee, you can't nair. You up air, and even that can get punished. So your roll is probably the best idea. You're dash dancing. You throw at this nair without actually thinking of where Sheik is.
Yeah, she's like on top.
She's on top platform, exactly. You're not thinking of you're not even thinking of where she is in the moment. You're not even thinking of where she's gonna be. You're not even thinking of where she is. You're just throwing out a move, hoping it's gonna hit.
Yeah.
Right. You're just kind of like in hopeful mood, which is one of the worst things you can do, because when you hope, then that's when you're that's why you're hesitant on certain situations. That's why you're hesitant on this CC gentleman right here. That's the exact reason why you're hesitant. It's because you're hoping for something and you're not actually sure if it's going to hit or not. And then you've never practiced what's going to happen afterwards, because you're always hoping, and so you're always reluctant to do something. And so that kind of stuff is dangerous, because it basically ends up being that you never actually get to build up like a very important skill set that Falcon has, which is hit confirming, or just applying pressure at a frame advantage, right? Falcon's one of the characters where you're literally able to press very well with frame advantage, better than a lot of characters, because you have the drift, the spacing, and basically the active hitboxes that not a lot of characters have. Most characters need to do more true punishes, where they need to catch you before you necessarily can act. But Falcon has a lot of situations where he can basically he'll be at a frame disadvantage, but he'll still be able to act out, right? Like you have a second or two, not necessarily frame of disadvantage, but you have an ability to aggress on them without getting a true follow-up. And not a lot of characters have that. And that's something that doesn't necessarily get developed if you're always hoping for things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think I went too far ahead. There we go. So one nair that didn't do anything, another nair that didn't do anything. Sheik is very often than not, unless she's already going to be here, you're not necessarily going to want to do a nair like this against Sheik. Some characters, it's not a bad idea, like a Walling Marth or say like a Fox. But for Sheik in particular, she doesn't have much drift. So she has to already kind of be in that situation, or very close, like right here, almost like where she can drift in a little bit more, in order for it to be a good option to choose. Now that being said, it's not a horrible option, because there's not much she can really necessarily. She could dash attack you. She could maybe grab you, which you tried to do your jab after, and and Omar did an F smash. But in particular, it's not necessarily a great nair to do.
Yeah, that's something that I've been trying to. For some reason, I just like, maybe I should just stop using nair altogether. But I feel like at low percent against Sheik, I don't really understand how nair fits into the Falcon game plan yet. Like, because sometimes I can catch her running in, I think. But a lot of times my losses in neutral come from her grabbing the end lag of my nair, because I'm doing the same like retreating style nair that can get like boost grabbed or whatever.
I want to when in doubt, if you're ever figuring out how to use Nair against Sheik, watch None.
Okay.
Because he is the one Falcon who effectively uses Nair in ways that other Falcons don't.
Mhm.
Like, see, the Sheik was already in the path of where he was. Like, when you did your Nair, like, it's very fast that happened there. But when None did that Nair, Sheik was already in his zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, like,
Yeah.
Sheik was, or at least able to get into the zone. Omar was, like, way over here when you tried to do that Nair.
Yeah.
And
He was like way over there, like when my Nair was out. Like he wasn't gonna run into it.
He wasn't going to run into it, right? So that's the kind of idea of what I'm trying to get is like you want to do those stationary Nairs when they're close enough that they can aggress, but not to the point where, or not far enough away that like it's like dash attack is barely going to hit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And he knows, he's like, okay, it's low percent, I'm going to get out of there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he does, again, he's doing the stationary Nairs, but only when Sheik is close enough.
When she was like, in the air too.
Yeah, and then he's aggressing her when she's on platform safely, again, in place. And then he's like, okay, now Sheik's playing very aerial based. I'm going to throw it in Nair and I'm going to CC after, because there's a chance that Sheik's probably going to try and aerial me, which, lo and behold, Spark tried to do. Right here.
Yeah.
Right there. See, and then he gets a CC Gentleman, and then he dashes away, dashes in, but the difference is the reason he did that is because he's trying to see if they're going to bait out. He's expecting them to bait out a
He's
forward
punishing
tilt
the spot dodge.
or a spot dodge.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
More likely not a spot dodge, but a forward tilt potentially too. You're right. It's actually spot dodge. You're right. It's he's looking for the spot dodge, but and potentially forward tilt. And the thing is if he spot dodges. Or if they spot dodge, he gets a good knee. If they forward tilt, then he knows that that's what they like to do out of that situation. The kind of situation where Sheik isn't knocked down exactly, but Falcon has slight frame advantage and they're close enough. That kind of situation.
Oh, yeah, that's really... Yeah, in those situations where I'm bailing out, he's like getting information and punishing like a common option if they choose it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's super smart.
And that's kind of the idea you want to do. Well, you kind of want to go with Melee. You can do bad options, but as long as you're learning from them or understanding that, okay, they like to do this in this situation. If you're just doing bad options and you don't know why you're doing them in the first place, then they're truly bad options. And that's what makes, that's why so many people called like None so stupid in the beginning, because they're like, he just does dumb options and whatever. And it's like they didn't understand that he's getting intel. Whole point was that he's trying to actually understand what they're trying to do by doing this option that's not necessarily optimal, because he gets information of what they like to do when he does that, and then he can actually punish them for it.
Yeah.
And if they don't punish him for it, then he gets a hit on it, right? In this situation, he gets the knee. That being said, his dash out, dash in knee isn't a bad option, but the idea is that it can be applied to bad options, and you can still get information out of it. But essentially, I just wanted to show you that. And then Nair. He's only done really stationary Nairs, and that's also because he hasn't gotten the feel for how Sheik likes to wall him when he approaches with Nair. That's another thing as well.
Yeah.
So he's doing much more safe options because he's not sure of how Spark likes to do things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then Ledge Dash Shield, that's also a really good option. Ledge Dash Shield is an amazing option, and he just waited. And there you go.
So much patience. Yeah, wow.
And the space, see the spacing? Right, so that's another thing I'm talking about. This kind of aggressing, see, he doesn't have even a really any frame advantage at all. Sheik's able to fully act, but he still aggresses. Whereas a lot of Falcons would have pulled off, and they would have given Sheik way too much stage. Again, he's aggressing. You get way more information when you aggress than you do when you play defensively.
Yeah. Dang, wait, that's a really good insight.
Right? And so he opts to go. That's why he opts to go more aggressive, but it's still a safe aggression. It's not like he's just naring in and getting, shield grabbed. He's running up, and that's another thing a lot of people need to do more. Instead of naring from across the stage, he runs up a little bit and then he nairs kind of in place. which is a very good nair versus fox, mind you. This is an amazing kind of nair where you run up a little bit and then you kind of nair forward slightly. That catches a lot of foxes who like to nair in certain ways. But in this specific situation, he's trying to catch a spark coming at a corner, but at the same time spacing it to see what necessarily spark might do, but also spacing in a way that he can punish a shield grab, which he does.
Yeah. And then probably kill Sheik for this.
And kill Sheik because, up throw up, double up air.
Yeah.
And spark Diad in a way that was perfect for it.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of like at low percent you want to play in a way, or just in general with nair, until you get an idea of how they like to cut you off or wall you. You kind of want to play such that you space your nair, but you do it in a way where they're in front of you. If they're not in front of you, then the only way you're going to hit them is if you're going to move forward. And the issue is when you move forward, they're going to try to wall you. So if you do it where they're just in front of you, they're more likely not necessarily going to wall you. And you'll notice that in a lot of situations when Spark is just directly in front of None, he doesn't necessarily wall him. Like he throws at an aerial, right? But he doesn't wall him in like with a forward tilt or like a retreating back air. He's kind of come down with a back air, which isn't the safest thing, right? And there's another situation. Let's see. I think there was. I don't remember. I remember there was one more, or maybe not. Maybe I just misremembered.
Yeah, it's it's hard, especially with like. I hate when you're like thinking of one specific situation, you're trying to like use the arrow keys to find it, and it's just.
It's just not coming up. Nah,
Yeah.
The idea is still there, so at least we have that.
Cool.
But yeah, no, he opts to go for a nair when he's close enough, but not far enough away that like it's not going to be in Sheik's space if Sheik kind of drifts forward, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of times also, as you'll notice, he'll crouch cancel underneath platforms. That's another thing too that is good to keep note of until we go back to your set. I wanted to show that. That was one kind of situation that it's like, okay, I know he's gonna slide off and he's trying to hit me. I'm just gonna crouch cancel.
It's just like baiting the like shield dropper slide off there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Cool.
but yeah, see the distance disparity. All right, we got that. Accidental tournament winner. Good. I like that double jump. That was really good. You didn't like full drift forward.
Yeah.
The wave dash down isn't bad. Not bad. Like, see, that's good patience. That's the kind of patience you want to have. Now, you definitely could have gone like shield grabbed here or just grabbed in general, but
yeah, it's just a mix up. Like in the corner is just bad against Sheik. So
also a thing you can get away with also is a lot of times you can just stomp. And that's the kind of bad option where you can get intel. That was kind of what I was trying to lead into, is that you can do bad options like stomp at a shield, and you can get information on, okay, they do forward tilt in the spacing. In which case you realize, okay, I can't do that, or at least I can't do that as easily or freely as I think I can. In which case you have to have the kind of patience you had there, and either opt to nair out, roll, or maybe even in this situation, wave dash back to ledge, right? Remember, wave dashing, going to ledge is not a bad thing as long as you're comfortable with it, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those options where it's like you forget. You're like, oh man, I have to aggress forward, and it's like, sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards, Think of like how Hax thinks of it. He loves the ledge, and there's a reason why. It's because it's an insanely good position.
The first time I was on the East Coast, like one of the first New York City tournaments I went to, I played him, and it blew my mind how far his ledge dash nairs went.
Yeah,
like it was insane.
If it's on Yoshi's, it goes to like center stage. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Good nair. But yeah, another thing too, it's like you have Sheik and Shield facing away, and you opt to dash to center stage,
Oh yeah,
which isn't necessarily a bad thing to do, but at the same time, you're not aggressing her, right? You're giving her a ton of
Yeah.
look how much space you're giving her, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I suspect I'm not even really looking at her in those moments. It's just like I recognize I can get center, so now create distance and reset,
And
which is
reset.
just not, yeah, like not always the right thing to do.
No, especially when it's like getting center is important, but I think honestly think it's overstated how important it is to look for center. If that makes any sense. Because the game itself, especially Falcon, he doesn't have a great way to hold center as well as some other characters. Like he can't like he can, but at the same time, the game changes so much that if you're trying to tunnel on holding center, it's not necessarily as good as it is in like doubles. Holding center in doubles is amazing because you have the ability to wall more effectively. But with singles, it's like you only have so many tools and so many different timing mix-ups that
Yeah.
it's not always available to just hold center. And
Yeah,
honestly, I'm really curious to see what you actually do when you get center. That's something I'm very, very curious.
Uh-huh.
Right? Look at this. Now you're in
Yeah.
the corner.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you went from, oh man, I got to get center, and like, oh, this is great, to one up air where Sheik's not even going to be, right? Like, there's a very low chance Sheik's just going to like walk forward from here. More like not, they're going to try and jump over because you're Falcon. He's, again, you got to think of it's not what, in this situation, what, like it doesn't come necessarily down to what do I want, what do I not want, but it more so comes down to just like what does Falcon want to do here? It's like he wants to up air me. I'm above him. I can't really contest him in a good way. He wants to up air me. So in Omar's mind, he's like, I'm just gonna jump over. I need to go to top platform and maybe try to get down, or maybe go to a side platform, use a needle, get a grab, needle fair, whatever. Right? He's trying to get into an advantageous situation. In his mind, he's like, oh no, I'm on side platform against Falcon at a percent where, yeah, I'm low percent, but I don't necessarily have an easy way to punish her. I'm in a disadvantage. So in his mind, I'm not going to fight out, right? That's where that's what good players think. They're thinking, I'm in a bad situation. Let's get to an advantageous situation, which is what he does. He goes to top platform. He again.
And then I gave him space.
You gave him
space.
center,
basically.
Exactly. And like I said, he literally did what I said he was going to do. He's going to try and needle on a platform and maybe catch you going to center and then maybe get a fair or a grab or a fair grab or whatever, right? But in this case, like we said, you literally gave him too much space and he's like, okay, I'm just going to take center. And the thing is that you prioritize too much of like cutting off like very little amount of space. Like you cut off, what was it? You basically threatened nothing, where Sheik had all this ability to move around. Sheik even had the ability to go back to ledge if they wanted to. So it's one of those things where you have to. I don't want to say this because this is not the answer and this is a bad answer, but you have to start to think of what does Sheik want to do? What do people want to do in general? Like that's kind of the answer, but it's a very open-ended answer, right? Because there's so many things people want to do, and that changes from person to person. But the idea is that typically, if someone is above you, they're going to want to, especially if you're Falcon and they're above you, they're going to want to try to not be above you. So in this case, you could have done that up air right here, but instead of dashing away and like trying to losing center, you probably could have went to center or maybe dashed here. Because if he came down here, then you're in a good spot to attack him. If he comes down over here, even if he needles you, he can't really get anything off of it. He has a slightly better position, but he's still not in a great spot. Whereas here, you're now essentially allowing him to take center and bear, which is way more scary in my mind than fair. Fair is not out as long, and bear is out for pretty long.
And it's huge.
And it's huge, exactly. So like you
Yeah.
could have up aired here, maybe dash to the right. Because again,
Yeah.
with Sheik, it's not like she can easily go to top platform super quickly and get over that option, get to the top platform super quickly, and then punish you trying to go back to center, right?
Hmm.
Even then, though, you're not really in a horrible spot. But you do have, I already noticed you have a bad habit of doing nair, jab, jab, which is like, nair, jab, jab's really good, but if you notice it not working, it's better to just try and do something else afterwards, like dash or
Yeah.
maybe jump after or whatever, because nair, jab, jab is really easy for Sheik to just run in and potentially
Like hold
press you,
down.
hold down, right? That too as
Yeah.
well. Sheik's at low enough percent too that you do these jab jabs, she could just hold down on the C stick, run in and grab you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's one of those options where it's good, but in my mind that jab jab is one of those Falcon Ditto jab jabs, to where it's like really
Gotcha.
good in Falcon
Yeah.
Dittos, but every other matchup it's not as good because you lock yourself into it. And you're the reason it's good against Falcon is because he's one of the only characters who's going to be jumping into you at that height or dashing in at that timing, right? Whereas most other characters aren't necessarily going to do that.
Yeah. Actually, I think for context, the set before this, I had beaten a fox who loved to try and punish the end lag of my nairs. So I was doing a lot of the like. Well, actually, maybe this is a theory for why I'm spamming it so much. But yeah.
No,
Uh,
the idea is that you're applying that same idea from a different matchup, and you're in that mode of thinking, which is understandable. But at the same time, you're in that mode of thinking, which
Yeah.
is in this case just incorrect or not what you want to do necessarily.
Yeah. I need to be flexible. And like I've gone for it so many times and not like if it hasn't worked like 4 times in a row, I should probably try something else and at least get like better information. Right?
Exactly, right? Like your idea is always like your idea should be understanding what your opponent wants to do. Like that's when I play Melee, I'm trying to think of what does my opponent want to do. Because if I don't know what my opponent wants to do, the game is impossible to play. And I used to be like that. I used to think like I used to like not know what the hell my opponent would do, and I would just be hoping for things. I would just throw out moves, or I do things that worked in most situations instead of doing things that would actually work or give me information. Right? Again, things don't have to work. I want to reiterate that again. Things don't have to be the optimal option as long as you use it to get information.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it was just me just doing things because I wasn't sure what my opponent was doing or wanted to do rather.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things you have to understand. It's like you have to first break it down into what the character is, which you've already done slightly, which is thinking about what they want to grab essentially, right? Then you have to think about what are the main situations in which that happens, right? And I'm not necessarily going to go through all of those right now. We've already gone through a couple kind of.
Yeah.
But the idea is that
Just having that framework is super helpful.
it's super helpful. Yeah, exactly, right? So, but I think you already know yourself, and you probably could deduce it yourself, what those kind of common situations are. Some of them are like you do a nair, and then a Sheik will boost grab in and grab your nair, or you're dash dancing, and then you shield because you think she's going to dash attack you, and then they boost grab you. Stuff like that, right? Just simple things like that. Or they get a needle on you're over here and they needle and then they fair you into a grab. Like that's another situation of getting grabbed. So stuff like that is kind of the stuff you need to think about more. And I can't necessarily go through all of it because there's a lot of it, but the main stuff kind of comes down to, it's like either whiff punishing or catching you potentially in a disadvantage and you may be fighting out of the disadvantage. That's another thing. A lot of people like to fight out of disadvantage. But yeah, like again, coming back to it, that nair jab jab is fine as long as you mix it up after. If you always go nair jab jab, like you said, it's not working, right? It's not giving you any information. I mean, it kind of is giving you information that he's not punishing your nairs afterwards, which is good for you because that means you can do a lot more after them. But at the same time, it's not giving you any information of how he likes to attack out of things too, right? It's not giving you any new information, sorry, is what I meant to say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That weight.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of held shield Like he read the shield drop here, I think.
He read the shit out of you here. Holy crap.
Yeah.
He's like,
And I feel like I'm not even sure why I shielded when I went. Oh, I was just out of a scramble and scared.
exactly. And this is the one, this is the situation that separates, one of the few situations that separates really great players,
From people like me.
from people, yeah, essentially is getting hit out of situations like I talked about before, getting hit out of close quarters combat or just situations, and you don't get knocked down, but you're at a frame disadvantage. These
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
situations typically lead to people shielding, and Omar knows that, and that's why he goes, and that's why he also doesn't immediately punish you, because he knows if he attacks your shield immediately, he's gonna get shield dropped. So what he does is he's going for that. He knows, he's like, okay, he just got awkwardly hit. You know, he's not thinking this, because he instinctively knows he just got awkwardly
Yeah.
hit. He's gonna shield. I'm gonna go do a late nair, and so that I could potentially get maybe a grab after or something, and he has to like do more difficult. I'm basically execution testing
Yeah.
you on your shield
Yeah.
drop. In which case, you end up jumping out, or you try to do the up air rather. You try to shield drop, and you shield drop too late because your reaction to it is too late. Like your understanding of the situation is too late. In which case, his nair is already out, and yours gets beaten.
Yeah. Oh, they messed up his shield drop. Oh, and that's
Oh no.
It's terrible. Well, that's me reading he's going to get down off of the platform, which is a really bad read to
Horrible,
make this
horrible.
early.
There's no need to Raptor boost here, because you have a much better option, which is up air. But even then, you're not in a situation where, like, actually, the funniest part about this is that you read him shield dropping. So this side B might have not necessarily been horrible, but I also think that he was at a spacing where it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Overall, it was just a bad side B. Let's just get that across.
Yeah.
But like, yes, it potentially could have punished him shield dropping here. But again, this isn't you. This is a hopeful side B. This isn't a.
Yes,
This isn't
yes.
a like a.
It's not like an educated guess.
It's not an educated guess whatsoever. This is just a hopeful side B, which is one thing. Again, we got to avoid that kind of hopeful mentality.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you got to think it's good that you realize that, yeah, he was going to shield drop here, but at the same time, you have to recognize, okay, I can't immediately punish it. Don't be afraid to just wait a second, right? Which is difficult, again, especially when you're pressured in tournament and you're not necessarily used to thinking about waiting, about punishing, because it's like, man, I know I can punish this if it hits, and that kind of hopeful mentality leads you to these actions, right? And really, it just comes down to just practicing patience, which is like, you can practice patience in Melee, you can practice patience in real life. I remember our motto was talking about practicing patience in real life, and it just comes down to just practicing like patience when you talk to people, or when you're waiting in a line, or anything that deals with you that tests your patience, essentially, right? Anything that kind of causes you to, get antsy or whatever, you kind of have to like catch yourself and be like, okay, let's relax and just be cool and wait, right? And that kind of that waiting can be translated into Melee too. So instead of you antsy getting off ledge and then spamming something because you're like I know I can punish this, and like, yes, it could punish if you're lucky. It ends up being that he's going to do that, and that gives you an ability to take center stage, or an ability to go to platform and then maybe hit him trying to attack you or whatever, because he's going to be there, right?
Yeah.
So it's using that information instead of for that direct punish there, that whiff punish that you're trying to do. You're instead trying to have that information of the positioning to set up for something else afterwards. One thing I really want, I remember my buddies talked about this recently. Over the break, they were talking about, they were saying, oh, he's using a lot of 1, a lot of 2, and not barely any 3. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And they kept joking about it a lot. And then eventually I got them to tell me. And it was 1 is whiff punishing, 2 is preemptive or like walling, and then 3 is overshooting.
Okay.
And those kind of like the main like archetypes or the main options of neutral, right? Like in raw neutral, you have like your ability to whiff punish, which is what most people do. Most people do 1. 2, which is like your walling, which is what a lot of Falcons do. They don't necessarily like to aggress or overshoot. And there's 3, which is like overshooting and aggressing and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
And with melee, it's like in this kind of situation, you're trying to do 1 too much. Like in this specific situation where you try to go for the side B, that's you trying. That's a very hopeful 1. It's a very hopeful whiff punish, right? Instead of it being like you can go to side platform and then maybe, do a 3 if you catch him, or probably more likely a 2 if he tries to aggress, or even just waiting and then you like shield dropping his attempt to hit you on a platform, and that would be like a whiff punish, right? The idea is essentially to try to minimize the amount of bad whiff punishing and leave it to more situations where there's guaranteed whiff punishing.
Gotcha.
Like not guaranteed, but like a better chance of it hitting, right?
Yeah.
Either it being a better chance by it just being that you're faster, or like you're in a situation where like it's more guaranteed, you have more frames of leniency, or it being where you're safer to whiff punish, in that even if you miss it, you're not in a bad situation. This is essentially neither of those, because your side being, which takes a while, as well as your then in a position where you can't act out of it if you miss. So you failed two of the things that you need for like a decent whiff punish, right?
Yeah.
Like a good whiff punish was like if you had waited even longer potentially right here. And then he did the nair, and then you did like an immediate shield drop. That's like a better one. That's a better whiff punish, because you're like, okay, I'm waiting until he hits my shield, and I can buffer it, and then I can get at worst, I will he'll shield it, but I'll at least be in a position where I'm not I'm off the platform, he's above me, and I might be able to land fast enough and CC. The optimal thing here would be to buffer an up air, shield drop up air, and then fast fall the up air, and then CC like buffer CC, which no one will do. But the idea is that there's levels or ideas of what you can do, and it's always good to have that kind of idea of, okay, I want to make it so that it's either safe or I have a decent amount of leniency in order to execute it, in which case that means like I'm able to get to that spot and actually hit them easy, right? Like an example is like a Sheik recovering onto stage, right, and they land on here and you're on ledge, like a ledge hop knee is really easy to do. That's a whiff punish. It's not really a whiff punish, but that kind of idea of like you have so much time and leniency is good, right? And those kind of situations you want to look out for, or you want to make it safe if it's not necessarily going to be frame lenient, right? And more likely than not, it's going to be more the safe side than it is the frame leniency side.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, dude, so sad.
So knee, and then you had to fast fall right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. You caught him shielding though. And I'm glad you went for the read instead of going for a reaction tech chase, because too many times people try to reaction tech chase grab Sheik rolls and you can't.
Yeah.
Because it's indistinguishable until frame 8, I think, and you need to have like a 8 frame reaction time in order to actually be able to react in time, like something crazy. You can still try to go for go for it if you have like a decent idea. Like you can basically still read. If they're in the corner, it's a little different because you can cover more. Like you can do option coverage. But in this situation, I'm glad you went for the knee, even though you were a little bit late.
Yeah.
You was able to put up the shield. I'm just glad you did. Like you should have been already jumping like here, let me. Like you should have already been jumping here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like right here. Jump. Yeah, jump basically before they tech.
Yeah.
Or at least jump right as they tech.
Like as they input it.
Yeah, in this case you're jumping after he's already been in tech for what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you inputted it on like frame 6 or frame 5 or whatever. And you're airborne. What is it? You're airborne frame 4, I think it is. I think with Falcon. So you inputted it, frame 6. So like you're 6 frames late, which is, again, that happens, but that's the kind of idea. It's like, if you're going to go for a read, I would deal with reads is you're going for that read, you go for that read.
You got to commit to it.
Commit to it. Yeah. And that's really difficult. It took me a long time to really start incorporating, but
I feel like it took me like 2 years to overcome. I would get mixed up between reading tech in place and tech in, and then stomp like in between the two, and then just get destroyed by them.
Yeah, man, that's the worst feeling too. And the worst too, even more so, is when people go, "You didn't even cover anything there," and you're like, "I know. I just, my mind is mixing the two together."
Yeah.
God, that reminds me of when I was, what was it, Sauce 3, Canadian Falcon, or Canadian Fox, sorry. He's like, "You didn't cover anything there," and I'm like, "Dude, I didn't say anything," but I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I know, like, he's not wrong, but I'm like, fuck.
As well.
yeah, I was like, But yeah, it's stuff like that. It's you commit to the read, and you have to be like, okay, I'm going for tech in place, and like that's all you're thinking about. Like that's all you're feeling. I'm not thinking, but feeling, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all instinctual, all feeling, right? And then miss the fastball. That's fine. At this point, once you miss this knee, I am jumping back. Like I am immediately jumping back, up being. You try to go for the up air after because you thought you probably could get the soft hit, and you even yourself were like, "Damn!" Like you missed. You're like, "How'd that miss?" Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed. I'm not sure if this is a mental game thing, but I noticed against Sheik and probably against Omar in particular. Anytime I like lose neutral or something happens, I shake my head. I'm like, bro, I don't know. It's like, I think it's just the awareness of like, I probably wouldn't have fallen for this 2 years ago, makes it like hard to stomach so many neutral losses. But I think I'm just like in my own head sometimes.
Dude, you just gotta start incorporating the nod. Anything that ever happens, like you just
yes.
Like there's that one Super Smash Sundays set of Lucky versus somebody, and he's taking a drink of water, and and he tried to like screw the cap back on, and it fell off, and he just gave the gamer nod. That's the kind of thing you need to do, because our physical actions, our physiology in general too, but our physical actions play a large role in, because that our physical, like that's a mental, like that's a reaction to what we're feeling, right? So you can't delve into that, because you start kind of building the snowball, and it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But every time you kind of cut that out, the snowball doesn't grow any bigger, right? It's kind of just stays the same. And then as time goes on, when as long as you build momentum, that snowball gets a little smaller. But the idea is you don't want to overload yourself with that like frustration, because then eventually the snowball starts rolling on its own. And then you just kind of, then eventually it's just a train wreck. Then it's all downhill, and it's horrible, right? But the idea is you kind of replace it with a nod. And it sounds stupid, but it's amazing, actually. It really helps a lot. Just nod. Even though like you might not agree with it like initially, as time goes on, you start to understand, like you start to not necessarily, it's not a positive effect, but it's not a negative effect. It's just kind of like a neutral, kind of cancels out the negative at least. Yeah. It might lead to a positive, like something positive, but most of the time it just kind of cancels it out. And so you're kind of just, at least you're not, getting worse, right? You're not getting more frustrated. Which is really important. And again, I get what you mean. Like 2 years ago, like you said, this wouldn't have phased you because you probably would have hit it, which happens, right? But the thing is, it's the kind of idea that the fact we're doing this is how you kind of see yourself in a third person and start to understand, how do I work on this in particular, right? And it really just comes down to small changes, right? Small incremental changes. You never make big changes. It's always just the smallest things you can do, right? It's I when I do double knee, I just have like, if you really want to get this double knee every single time, you sit down for 10 minutes and you have Sheik do random DI and you just do double knee, and eventually you start to get way more consistent with it. And again, it just takes like 10 minutes, and then eventually you'll be like, oh, okay, I just have to fast fall here, and you start to react to the DI better. Because again, this is all you can all react to this. That's one thing a lot of people forget is on a knee like this, people are like, oh, I have to like read the hit confirm. But it's like, no, you can jump and react like for a long time. Like you have a lot of time to react to what they're doing, right? Like by here, you should have already reacted like here even. On like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to probably fast fall. Even here, you could have like fast fall.
You can still, because you only need a few frames of fast fall to catch that.
To catch that, right? Like it's pretty small, right? And at worst, you'll probably get a soft. At best, you'll get a double knee.
Yeah. And if you get the soft, they're probably also still dead because you can up air them.
Up air them, exactly, and then rinse and repeat edge guard, and you're good.
Yeah.
Another thing too, also, is to understand that like Sheiks in particular, at least when you double knee here at this percentage, most of the time you're gonna have to fast fall, I find. Unless they're like hard DIing in. But Omar is probably not going to necessarily be hard DIing in. And if he is, it's going to be at an angle that's not going to be like true perpendicular to like, you know what I mean? So you're going to more likely not fast fall. And it's also just being ready to fast fall. Because in this situation, you're just like, oh, I get a free knee. And then that's why when it misses, you shake your head. Because you're like, well, first off, like you said, you're expecting to hit it. But secondly, it's also because of the fact that you're expecting such a free knee. So if you're ready to know that you have to fast fall, it's much easier to get yourself to fast fall. Which again, that just takes you like 10 minutes, or not even 10 minutes, like 5 minutes on Uncle Punch with random DI Sheik at this percent, and then eventually you'll get to the point where you're like, oh, I can react to it better, and then you're also more ready to actually fast fall too. But those kind of things is the reason why I'd say it only takes like 5 or 10 minutes, because you have all the other tech skill. It's just kind of getting your not muscle memory, but kind of making it so that you understand like, oh, okay, this is when I can this is kind of how I react, and then this is like, it kind of gets you more used to it, right? Because you have all the underlying fundamentals. You're able to like run immediately after the knee. Like a lot of Falcons I know would have immediately, like not immediately, but they wouldn't have immediately dashed. Like, and you're already dashing. You already have like 99% of it. The other 1% is like takes 5 minutes to kind of iron out to see the DI, right?
Yeah.
You get dash tack. This dare is so annoying. It's like you're expecting to get fared, and so you DI in, and you actually get dared, and now you're further off stage, or further closer off stage.
Now the fair is like definitely gonna kill.
Definitely gonna kill, right? And here it's hard because it's like,
I'm thinking like, so if he goes for the dare or the up air there, do you think it makes sense just to DI up and either like get on top plat, or at least just like
you're at low enough percent that you could DI up and slightly in, and you'll be fine, and that way you won't necessarily get sent all the way to the right or left, and then easily get fared. So doing slight DI up, like slight DI in, or even just straight up would be better.
Yeah, I think mentally, for a while, like when I'm trying to be like defensive in this situation, I'm trying to like DI out so I can hopefully get out of the combo.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times like dare and up air at these percents are just going to combo for Sheik, so just like stay away from the edge. It might be wiser. I don't know.
Yeah, you could try to add in platforms to make it more difficult, because this is just a true punish. As long as Omar hits the L cancel and dashes immediately, like as long as he reacts to it, it's a free fair, right?
Yeah. Cool.
And that's also a thing too. Yeah, like in that situation, it's better to do like not a true, full combo DI, just because you can kind of get intel on how they like, how they like to combo. But then also you can kind of, you can also experiment with the DI and see yourself. Like, this is how I experiment with how I should DI in things, is that I don't go into 20XX or Uncle Punch and set up and then try and set up the specific situation and DI fair a certain way or dare a certain way. I just practice it while I'm actually playing the game. And I go, okay, I'm going to do slight DI. And then that way, let's see how that works at this percent. And instead of going for full combo DI, because more likely than not, if I do full combo DI on the dare, I'm probably dead anyways, right? So I can kind of see slight DI and see what goes on. So during how that applies during a set in particular is that you don't necessarily get information, but you at least keep yourself thinking instead of going into an autopilot full DI away, if that makes any sense. It's one of the things that kind of keeps you fresh thinking. It's not a necessary thing to do, but it's something that I do in particular that I'm like, instead of auto DIing, I'm like thinking, okay, I'm going to slight DI this time and see how that works. And that kind of keeps me, on my toes and not, autopiloting, if that makes any sense. It's maybe not great advice, but I feel like it's helped me before.
For sure.
Ooh. This is a good nair.
Yeah.
And then, you're right. I feel like it would be really hard to get something just because you were drifting away.
Yeah.
That'd be hard.
It's hard to follow up there.
Hard to follow up there, but you recognize that, which is good. Ooh.
Good air dodge by him.
Yeah, it's a good air dodge. So right here is hard because I think you have to neutral get up sooner. I think the idea is. So there's a specific thing in the cookbook that actually has this. I forget how it works though.
Oh, okay.
But this is hard. I know Wizzy sometimes will just short hop knee down. Like he'll just short hop knee and then fast fall down because he knows that they're going to go low. That's something you can do, and you can get an up air after. That's what you should do here. And then at worst, you're going to trade with them with a hard knee. At best, you're going to soft knee up air. But then when you're in this situation, it's hard because if you jump off ledge and try and bear them, they're going to grab ledge. And if you neutral get up, they're going to, what do you call it? They're going to air dodge like Omar does here. And you neutral get up, which is fine. And then you're kind of in a tricky situation, right?
Yeah, you're at disadvantage.
So the best thing to do here actually is you think they're going to go low and you go for the short hop knee, fast fall up air.
Okay.
Fast fall
like
knee,
off stage
knee, like delayed fast fall, like knee delayed fast fall. That's what I'm pretty sure that's what Wizzy would have done here.
Okay.
Again, it's hard to get it the first, 30, 40, however many seconds, 45 seconds into the first game of a set, right? Yeah. But that's kind of the thing that like you should be looking out more when you're like, okay, Sheik might go low here. I'm going to do that. Because for Sheik here in particular, doesn't really have enough drift to grab ledge, right? And so Sheik is going to have to pretty much either instant jump, which is bad, or go low in order to cause that mix-up, which, ends up not really being in your favor because they can just really grab ledge or air dodge.
Yeah.
And then here's where I'd wave dash back.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, crap, I'm in a bad spot. You give it a second, right? You see what they're going to do. And then I'd either stomp here or I'd wave dash back. I'd probably stomp here just because I'm at super low percent and I probably am not going to die.
Yeah.
If I was at high percent, I would have shielded and then waited till they're far enough away and then wave dash back.
Yeah, and Omar, this is something, Omar's been doing this to me for the last, 5 years probably. Like, he reacts to me holding shield in the corner by grabbing.
Yeah, exactly. He has
actually, stomping is a really, I'm going to take a note for that. That is a
stomping
good idea.
Stomping's busted because the risk reward is really, really good. Because even if they most of the time when they tech it, they're going to be teching it in place. Some do tech away, but even then, you get like a frame advantage, like tech chase. If they tech in place, you can just grab them. If they hold down, you can jab reset knee. if they're low enough percent, or you can jab reset gentleman, or whatever, right? Or you can even do true punish or stomp into crouch cancel tech chase, right? Crouch tech chase. But the idea is essentially that with stomp, it's like, again, you can get intel on what they like to do, but you also, if you don't get intel, you can also get a punish, right? In this case, you easily could have just stomped him here, and it probably would have hit.
Yeah.
Right, like right here, just stomp, and then you would have caught him, grabbed it, coming in with the grab, because he wasn't planning on naring at you, and even if he did, you're at such a low percent that it's like
it doesn't matter if he hits me with a tilt or an aerial or something.
Yeah. So it's like a no reason not to, and even if you do, you can get off stage and you're probably going to be fine, right? You DI off stage, he forward tilts you, you do neutral jump, then drift in, grab ledge, whatever. Like you're pretty much fine. Yeah. Sometimes it's not bad to get up attack just cause. Especially because he's more primed for the like rolls. Second place is also good. There's also like ambiguous DI you can do, but I don't really do it. Usually what I do against these sheiks is I get up attack a few times, or like once, try to roll, and then I try to go off stage at low enough percent that I can get away, and then that worst time off stage. But like I'm low enough percent that they can't really kill me. But I don't always opt to do that because they can kill you.
Yeah, it's hard. I feel like when Omar's on, it's definitely just a decision of like, do I want to take enough percent until I can get to a platform and like do a mix up there, or do I want to just take a mix up at the ledge and like probably make it back?
Yeah.
He was hitting his. He normally has holes for covering the roll after the mistech, but he was hitting it pretty decently today.
Really good
so
today.
there's not much he can. It's like I don't know. I feel like against him when he's like hitting it, it's just like okay, I just have to like avoid getting grabbed even harder now.
Yeah, literally. I think you could have teched in place here instead of teched away.
Yeah,
just because it would have been tighter, and then maybe even held down if you tried to go for a fair. If you reverse faired you, like that's the best thing you could have done. But there's no way he had enough time to run back and like bear. And up air would lead to something, but it'd be better than getting hit up air the second time like you did. Because then at least you would have been able to DI from here to top platform instead of being DI into a weird situation, right?
Yeah.
You just messed up by not drifting enough back to ledge. You definitely could have just went to ledge, but instead you didn't go far enough back. You went to basically where you're actually going to land on stage.
Yeah.
I honestly would have just went for a shitty stomp here just to test him. Just because, cause sometimes, again, it's not bad to test them. And then once I realized, then I would go for the better option, right? You could have even just double jumped here, and you probably could have actually went to with enough drift, maybe to top platform. Let me see. Definitely. Yeah, you definitely could have. Which is like not a bad option. It's better than you trying to go off stage to the ledge with no jump, and he's just kind of waiting, right?
I'm not sure what those up airs are.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
because I did the up air when he was on the ground level with me.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's something a lot of New York Falcons do, like Smuckers and JoJo, and I really hate instant up air in neutral when the person's right in front of you. I don't think it's good at all. It's good when you're like trying to tack out a shield and you know it's gonna hit, but otherwise it's not a good option to do like almost ever. And I know a lot of Falcons will die by it. Like I bet NMW would probably disagree with what I said, but I personally feel like majority of Falcons don't actually use it efficiently or in the correct manner, and it's almost always better to just do something else. You also notice that again. I always advocate, like I always reference top level Falcons, but you never see them use instant up air and neutral. Like ever, right? I know, and again, I know you're not actively, you yourself literally just said, I don't know what those up airs were, but I just want to make it painfully clear that those are just not good to do in general, even if they're done frame perfectly. Yeah, I can tell the frustration is definitely settled in here. These up airs are painfully clear. Okay.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, you have mentally given up at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's a pattern that I've seen play out against people at like kind of this level where they're like on the PR.
Yeah.
Is game one, the first maybe stock or two, I'm like playing close to my game plan. But then once I go down a decent amount, I kind of just throw it out the window and like revert to like old habits.
Why do you think that is?
I think I'm actually just an impatient player in general and just didn't. So because I wasn't aggressive, everyone told me that I was campy. And I thought that if I'm campy, that means I'm patient. But I've been realizing recently, like I'll do some dash dances, but very predictably, like on the third dash dance, if they don't aggress, I'll just fly across the stage with a knee or something. And so I think it's one of those habits that I've just burned into my mind over the last 5-6 years, and it's time to like slowly undo it.
So the way to try to undo that is to incorporate things that are different than grounded movement.
Okay.
So instead of always going for, short hops, like this dash dancing, you see how you're kind of very rigid, grounded. Try to incorporate more like platform movement. Try to incorporate more double jump mix-ups. Try to incorporate things that are different than these very horizontally based approaches. Because the thing is that you're like, oh, I gotta go in. And it's very predictable to just kind of wait a second, go in, like you said, wait a second or two, and then go in and knee. Like he perfectly power shields it into a shield grab, right? You want to mix it up enough that when you go for those options, it's not clear that you're going for them. So you have to mix in different approaches. Again, if we go back to this set right here, see the full hops? He's already trying to. He's playing very more vertical. He's moving around, double jump around, back air, nair.
Yeah.
Dash dance. Little sloppy from both of them there.
Nair the wrong way just for fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. There.
Oh, there's the knee that you're
there
talking
it is.
about.
Yep.
Yeah. Super good.
And now Sheik's dead.
Yeah. Oh.
He's just going crazy because he can. Up air because he can't get a knee. Tries to go for it again, but this time it's an overextension because he just got hit by it. So Spark's like, okay, I gotta go more outside.
Yeah. Yes, I feel like he went a little outside, and he also started the up B maybe a little earlier.
Yeah, and so the thing is now you're looking at this, and it's like, oh man, he got punished for this, but now none knows that he's capable of doing that.
Yeah.
Right. He tried to. It's not like an execution test per se, but he's trying to punish him for like doing something. And now he has that information that he's like, okay, Spark has enough brain cells to deal with this situation. So I'm now going to go for a stomp instead of going for this knee now, because now I'm going to go grab ledge next time because he's more likely not going to do the same option again. But yeah, just. Like his dash dances are fluid, and he's like he accidentally went to platform there, and like he doesn't play necessarily as vertical, but he's not necessarily just doing very like you look at his dash dances and they look very like what's the word?
He's like actually mixing things up.
He's mixing things exactly. It's not just 1 2 1 2 1 2. It's like 1 2 1 2 2 3 1 2 2 3 1 2. It's like. It's a very shitty way of describing that, but you get the idea. Is that it's a very dash dance. The timing to go back and
Yeah.
forth is different than just back forth at a almost constant tempo.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the biggest issues when I remember, what was it? It was like, I think it was PPMD was talking about it. And I think a lot of people got on that train of like dash dancing to a metronome. And I remember like everyone did that. And I remember trying it out. I'm like, this just feels like I'm building poor habits, like very predictable dash dancing. You know what I mean? Like if it varied for like a second or two, one tempo, and then it changed to another, that would be fine. But the issue is it's like you set it at one tempo, like 120. It's like, you know, that's 120, you know, like I think I might be misremembering. It might have just been for your specific character to get max distance dash dancing. But I almost think it was also what I just described as well. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll notice it's very, very dash dancing. You know, it's like he messes up a nair there. I don't know what he was probably tried to do a bear there instead. Like yeah, he is playing grounded, but he's doing it in a way where it's varied, and he does use his like verticality as best as he can. Amazing up air to
Yeah, great mix up.
See, he does it again.
Another dude, the full hop bear.
Full hop bear. This isn't
No
amazing
fastball.
to do, but it does work. And what you'll notice, Wizzy more recently started using he doesn't use full hop bear into nair, singlet nair, but he does use the singlet nair coming down because it has range and it does catch people off guard.
Yeah.
And right here, you'll notice
Oh man.
this right here, this knee, he does mess up, like he lost his wall here, but he goes. This is what I call the mango overshoot or the mango knee.
Sure.
Mango. If you watch any Mango set as Falcon against against Sheik, against any character really, what he loved to do is he loved to dash out and then immediately dash in afterwards to knee. And what this would do is it would mostly catch people be a mix of 1 and 3 of whiff punishing, but also more so just 3, which is overshooting. And it's amazing because it's kind of deceiving. You kind of go out and in, and it really is weird on when you're actually going to come in. It's very odd. I don't know why it works, but it does. And if you don't believe me, watch any Mango set where he plays Falcon, and you'll see he abuses this specific option.
Yeah, wait, could you rewind it just to see how it's
Like he dashed in, then dashed out, then dashed in, but the idea is it's mainly just the dash out, dash in, and then to overshoot that really works.
Yeah, I feel like for me, whenever I'm dashing back, I'm either coming to dash and grab to whiff punish or a dash dance. But I don't think I've ever actually done dash out to immediate, just come back in with a knee.
Or any aerial, really. It doesn't necessarily have to be knee, but the idea is that come in with an aerial after, and typically your best overshooting move on average, unless you have a good understanding of what they're going to be doing to potentially punish you coming in, usually knee's the best tool to actually aerial to use. Lasts for a while, really good for trading, hits the hardest typically in Stomp's also good, but the issue is Stomp doesn't reach as far. Nair is okay. Nair's good, but the issue is second hit of Nair doesn't come out till frame 20. And up air is out for very little. And back air, need I say more. So
yeah.
But yeah, that kind of idea of dashing out, dashing in is really good versus Sheik and Marth, and honestly, a lot of characters in general. Try to nair out. But yeah, nairing out of corner isn't necessarily bad, especially if you wait a second. You've noticed.
Yeah.
You did that yourself and it worked. None did that himself and it worked. It's really good.
It's so good against Sheiks that don't know how to crouch cancel. It's insane.
It's insane, right? And even if they do, he was able to crouch cancel. He was able to shield in time for the downside.
Ooh, wow. That was really good. DI.
And then he got a little too antsy. But the thing is he's going for this knee because in his mind, you have to go for these. Otherwise, they're never going to expect otherwise, right? You have to, it's not necessarily a horrible option. There's probably better things he could have done here. but it's also good because it kind of not necessarily, what's the word, conditions them. It doesn't necessarily condition them per se, but it definitely causes them to think like otherwise. It gives extra, what's the word? Extra mix-up potential later on.
Yeah, I feel like it forces them to respect that option later on, which is like, I'll say something I've been thinking about recently is recently I've really felt like against good players, it's almost like I have to make them like shook before I can start playing my game and really getting what I feel like are big neutral wins. And that's because like against good defensive players, the way like their default options just beat kind of like lazy, non-committal options from Falcon. And I feel like I have to really show them, like, I don't know. I guess I
show them that they have to be scared.
Yeah,
or at least be more tentative in their options, right? Because the reason why None gets away with a lot of these options, it's like you'll see him do like a knee that's not necessarily as good. It's because he could do the alternative, which is dash away, dash in, and then that beats that forward tilt, right? So in their mind, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna do something else, in which case that knee beats, right? So it's like it's not a 50-50, but it's a mix-up such that like they have to respect it, otherwise they get punished for doing the alternative, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like not necessarily you're making them scared in order to play your own game, but you're showing them that you're capable of doing more than just the base level of mix-ups.
Yes.
Which cause, and if they have a brain, then they'll start to actually, respect it. If not, then you just keep punishing them with the same thing over and over, which is what happens to me all the time. And on ranked, I'll run into somebody and I'm like, I could just beat you with this one option, and then I start just beating them with this one option, and I'm expecting them to adapt, and they don't, and I just keep punishing them for that option, right? Same goes for, so that kind of idea is like why None's able to get away with what he's able to do, and why you yourself find that you're not able to actually apply your game plan is because you're not necessarily showing them effectively that they're, that they have to respect you doing this option, because that's the only option that you actually end up doing.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
which is like,
makes sense.
It sucks to hear, but it's the truth at the end of the day, right? Like people if they have a brain and they're not respecting it, it means that you're not forcing them to respect it. Besides that, let's get back to the actual. You survive here, which is good. This up air right here is you just immediately up air, and you're like, okay, I get hit and shield up air.
It's not like you have to delay that up air or back air.
Or just back air. It's one of those things you have to recognize. This is the kind of thing I was talking about earlier with partially autopiloting, but also partially not like understanding the situation. Autopiloting in the sense that you're just like getting hit on shields and you're doing what, the best option typically is for a shield drop up aerial, right? Which is up air.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that you're not, recognizing the situation. Like you're not looking at the screen here and being like, okay, he fell through platform back, like aerialed. I know that up air is not going to work. And it's like something you just know. Like I see him falling through. I see him falling through.
Instant back air.
And I can back air, right? Like I have more than enough time to know that that's going to happen. I don't think you can necessarily react. Let me see actually. See he's falling through, so that's why like 3 frames he's falling through. It doesn't really look like he's falling through yet, but let's say right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah. You have more than enough time to react.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like already knowing that he's just starting from behind me.
Yes,
right?
That too. You're reacting to his positioning, and then you can also use the fact that right there you could react, and you had more than enough time to throw at the bear too with the reaction. But just having that idea that he's behind you, you already know, like you already make a soft read or like a reaction read, kind of like where you already know he's going to be behind you, so you just have to react in time to do the bear. So already you have to do bear essentially.
Mhm.
You just have to like react that he hits your shield and then you shield drop, or you can even just buffer it. You don't
Yeah.
even have to react to anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good gentleman. Oh,
Yeah.
so what you do off of this gentleman is you have to go for a read here.
Yeah.
You have to go for it. So you already jumped in. And you're either kneeing tech in place, or you're going for hard read tech in, or you're kneeing tech away.
Yeah. That's like, yeah, that's definitely the. I definitely need. So I actually wrote down I need to cover tech out against Omar more because he loves it.
He
Like,
loves tech out. Yeah,
We watched a set of his against JoJo where JoJo won, and JoJo just constantly read tech out, and it just like worked.
tech out is I think what Sheiks need to do more at lower percents when they is potentially. I don't know if this actually works, but let's say he got knocked down here, he got kneed to the right side. Doing a mistech and then holding down is actually not a bad idea because then you just go to ledge. Opting to go for that is usually better. The issue though also is that you might be able to get stomped.
Yeah.
That being said, in this situation, tech away is not a bad option, but really a better option here, the best actually is tech in, because for Falcon here, it's much harder for him to jump back and knee here. Like it's a much harder read. And most people I find read tech in place or tech away. I would have read tech in place here just because if I missed, I at least had positional advantage.
Yeah.
And if they,
it's like a lot safer than like tech out. Like missing it is rough.
It's
'cause
rough.
They have center.
Right? They have center. And it's like this case, I'm just going to do tech in place. And then once I know for a fact he's going to tech away, like he's just done it all the time, I'm just going to hit him then. And then that's that's what's going to give me the stock and potentially the game.
And something else I want to call out there is I definitely should have I think I was probably just nervous. Definitely should have gone for a knee in place and then chilled, but I think what I try and do is like try and read a roll in there. But I find and I just happen to get a grab because I get lucky. But I find myself going for these reads on tech in when I clearly haven't, like I'm not forcing them enough to do it. Like he doesn't feel any pressure. And so, of course, he's not going to roll in.
The Falcon Classic.
Yeah, I still find myself like just like sitting there applying no mental pressure and then just like hoping that they roll in, and it's super annoying.
Yeah, it all comes back to the hoping for something instead of instead of thinking about what they want to do, right? It's about thinking about, okay, like it's almost like empathizing to a degree because you have to think about what they're feeling and how they're going to react to a situation. And it also just kind of comes down to the more you play the matchup, the more you have to think about it. And this is perfect time to think about it. The more you think about it and think, okay, they're not going to roll in. Like just always think they're never going to roll in here because She's roll sucks. More likely than not, they're gonna run off and do this bear like Omar did. The thing is too is that your grab here is actually not that bad for a couple reasons. So the only thing that beats this is a roll or a spot dodge. Omar was probably trying to F tilt, or other Sheiks would have ran off again and doing a bear. If they do run off and do a bear again, you can ASDI it down and grab it.
Okay.
So if they spot dodge, you're kind of screwed. But the thing is that he would have had to have spot dodged and be turned around so he could get the grab. Otherwise, I think you can instant roll out because the turnaround grab's not fast enough. Don't quote me on that. But the thing is that most Sheiks here would have bared. They would have jumped off stage, back on, and bared. In which case you could just hold down and grab it anyways. This grab's also not bad because grab in this situation is unreactable.
Yeah.
Right,
I was trying to space around the bear as well by like waiting until he hit the ground before going in with the grab. Yeah.
Like this, he gets grabbed like frame 12. He can't react to this. So that's that's one thing also in the corner, especially going for these grabs isn't a bad idea because they have less space to deal with it, and dash grab is unreactable.
Okay. Yeah.
And you'll notice if you watch any good like Nun, Wizzy, STJ sets, whenever especially Nun, he spams grab when they're in the corner because they're like, oh, he's gonna aerial, and then he doesn't. oh, and then because he'll do an empty hop and then he'll dash in, or sometimes he'll just straight up dash in, or like Wizzy, he'll just straight up and dash in because you can. And again, it's like he would have had to have read this with a spot dodge. Dreffin is the player who would have spot dodged this. 100%. Yeah. And in which case, like, I'm already thinking that in my mind, I'm going for a knee. But I know for a fact Omar's not going to spot dodge this. Omar's not that kind of Sheik.
Yeah.
He will spot dodge. Don't get me wrong, but he's not going to spot dodge in that situation. And so that's the kind of framework that I'm talking about, right? I'm thinking of, okay, what's the common options Sheiks like to do? Like to do short hop, off stage, drift back in, bear. Okay, what do they typically do out of it? They do spot dodge or they do it again. I'm gonna go for the thing that beats the more common option, which is the dash off again, bear again, because that's what typically Sheiks are more comfortable doing. And then if they do a spot dodge, then I know they do a spot dodge. In which case, I'm gonna punish them with a spot dodge the next time.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Cool.
But the idea is always like, okay, what's kind of like, how does this player like to play? If you know that, you're already ahead of the game. If you don't, it makes it a little bit more difficult, in which case you have to go off that like really basic framework. But typically, thankfully, usually as skill increases, people usually, their ideas are relatively similar to the people who play like them around that skill level in certain situations. Like Sheiks typically play similar as other Sheiks at the same skill level. They'll do different things in different situations, but typically the framework needs to be modified slightly. In which case you can start applying, that adaptation a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But the whole idea really comes down to is that most of the time when you're in a tech chase situation, you have a frame advantage. Most of the time they really only have like two options that are like completely different from another.
Yeah.
Right. Like two of them. Well, there's three technically in that situation because there's a spot dodge and the roll. The roll is much less likely from a Sheik because Sheik rolls bad. And so the main two options are probably going to be spot dodge and the bear. If they shield, you get the grab. If they bear, you get the grab. If they spot dodge, you don't. And then if you're looking for the opposite, the spot dodge, you get the knee. You end up hitting spot dodge. You end up hitting the spot dodge, or you end up hitting the shield, in which case you're fine. And the bear, more likely not, you're fine just because you're low enough %, so you don't really get screwed over for it.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of idea of like, once you choose that option, for the next time what the opposite is, and you can, it all kind of plays into itself. But you see how kind of quick I'm able to come up with this information. It's because I'm always thinking, whenever I watch Melee, I'm thinking about the situation. What's the alternative? I was always questioning, always thinking of what happened, what could have happened, why it happened, and it happens really quick. I'm always thinking about that. And it's like either I'm saying it under my breath or I'm just thinking about it or whatever, right? And then that way, and if I really don't know, then I'll play it back. But that doesn't happen too often when I'm really watching Melee. Most of the time, it's like I almost immediately know, I could have done this. Unless it's like very tricky, ambiguous DI, and there's like a jump, in which case there's like many things that could have happened. If it's like a set in stone spot where like Sheik really only is going to do a couple of options here, like more likely than not, that's what's going to happen, right? Like Sheik's not going to full hop here. There's no way a Sheik is going to, right here, like full hop here, because that's just it's just such a risky option, especially because he doesn't have drift, right? Muta King here probably would have either done the bear or would have done a reverse needle grab ledge. Someone like Dreffin probably would have done a spot dodge. Someone like Omar in this case did the bear. But the idea is that essentially people like to play a certain way, and you can start to understand that. But there's, again, at the end of the day, there's a base framework of what people like to do. There's about 2 or 3 options. Most of the time, there's really only like 2 of what people are going to do in like tight situations, and that way you can just play off of those, and that's how you adapt and start to punish people for things. Not that you don't know adaptation. I meant to say that earlier. Not that you don't know adaptation, but it's more so I think a lot of people overstate like what an adaptation is in Melee. Like everyone thinks, oh, he adapted. It's like this abstract thing, when in actuality it's just like, oh, he just ended up kneeing here because he's going to spot dodge instead of roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just very simple things. And he rolled last time. I'm gonna, hit the roll. It's that simple. Oh, they did this last time. Okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, they did this last time. I'm going to do this. And beauty of melees, a lot of things come up again and again and again and again and again. But it's just being able to immediately recall it and then react on it at a specific timing. A rhythmic reactionary memorization game.
So that punish off the up throw here, I thought he was going to have to tech on platform, so I was trying to do that, but I should have just gone for the bear, I guess. Didn't know that he could...
Are you talking about...
That where I up throw him and he, like...
I see what you mean. Yeah.
He kind of just hangs there. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, that's a weird situation. Sometimes you can even just down throw here and get a knee.
True. Yeah.
Because a lot of times, so what good sheiks will do here is they tend to do this kind of DI where you go to platform and you can't get like a true knee, like a up throw knee, and you can't get a true like up air into something. So what you do here is you do down throw and you get a knee, or you get an up air at worst, which is really good. And you'll catch them a decent amount of the time. And that way, same you do with Marth too. A lot of times I'll spam up throw, and then once I start seeing them do that kind of DI, I start doing down throw.
Gotcha.
So I at least execution test their DI.
Yeah.
If at worst, at best I get a pretty easy punish. But yeah, here once you got this up throw though, the fact that you did go for it, I probably would have. Depending on how I'm feeling here, I probably would have also gone for the stomp here and would have felt the same situation. Or I would have, if I was further to the left, I probably would have went for like a knee read on tech towards stage on the platform. But again, both fall to the issue that he wasn't actually needing to tech. In this case, though, I probably would have, I think I would have already been holding down here, actually. Right here, I would have been holding down. Because there's no reason not to. Unless I felt like he would have held shield, in which case I wouldn't have been holding down necessarily. But the fact that I'm like, okay, he shielded, I'm reacting to him shielding, I'm going to hold down. Especially because I'm low percent. If I'm percent, I probably would have shielded it just because I don't want to get hit. And then from there, I would have
just like hold down, like run off platform or something like that.
Just hold down. Really literally just hold down, and then that way, if you do get hit, you're not gonna actually get like knocked anywhere. He tried to fair, in which case you accidentally rolled, and even if he fared, I could have probably forced him to hit my shield because that's the thing. Man. Sheiks love to, for whatever reason, people love hitting other people on platforms, and then this is an immediate up air into immediate shield drop up air, and immediate shield dropping into an aerial is so good, and people don't do it as much as they should. Like I coached a decent amount of Ganons, and whenever I see them like on a platform and someone just tries to hit their shield like poorly, in my mind, like it's screaming instant shield drop up air, instant shield drop up air. And what do I see them do? It's like they don't do anything, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's so free. It's like you have what is it? A frame 5 move or whatever, however fast it takes to shield drop into up air, it's like pretty fast. Like it's less than 7 frames. Like it's fast as hell, especially for Falcon's perspective. But yeah, definitely hold down. See, that's a good CC. But then it almost looked like you let go.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's. Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Because I do not think you're 21%. There's no way you can't CC Nair. And it's a hard hit Nair, so it's not even like it's one of those jank situations where you're too low percent and you get hit by a soft hit and you can't crouch cancel it. I don't know if you're aware of those situations, but it's not even that. So it almost looked like you let go of CC and then you jab because you're like, oh no. So okay.
I was just like, what happened?
What happened? Yeah, exactly. What happened? And then he's like, oh, I'm just going to dash attack you because I'm Sheik. Yeah, and he gets a grab. Yeah. And then you're... Sorry. And then you're just like, fuck, man.
Bro, it's like, come on.
Come on.
I needed that to get back in this game.
Literally, yeah.
I do get... Let's see what happens here. I get out. I mean...
Quick back to ledge. Good empty hop. because he's holding center stage, and you're kind of taking more space without necessarily having to aggress. Amazing shield, amazing dash hands grab. So this is why I love being port 4 against Sheik and Marth. This knee hit because of the fact that he jumped.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you would have gotten a soft hit, or not soft hit. You might have whiffed if in the event that he hadn't jumped.
Yeah, I actually. So you'll notice. Where is the best place just to like look at a Sheik, like up to date Sheik punish flowchart? I used to have it ingrained, and I just like forgot some of the percents. And
okay, so
you'll notice a few times I'll be on like the edge of where something's legit, and I'll go for it, and it doesn't work, and I like throw away my advantage.
Give me a second. I'm gonna look up the versus Sheik throw. Again, this is all in the Falcon. The Falcon Discord. We have the bot, which has all the commands. Sheik throw. So if you go to here, I'll actually just. I'll just add you.
Oh, it's just in we need data.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is the optimal. This is the optimal throw flowchart for like against Sheik. That being said, I take certain liberties, or not liberties, but I kind of like don't go as specific on the percents just because it's very difficult to be frame perfect all the time. So a lot of the times I'll be like, okay, if they're above 35, I'll go for up throw. If they're below 35, I'll go for down throw just because it's easier. And same with like if they're above, just below 80, I won't necessarily go for a knee. Whereas like 92 or whatever it is, you can get like the full hop knee. It's harder to do that at like certain percents, especially or the higher percents, like 117 after the up throw. That's harder to get a knee a lot of the times. So it's like I try and do it so that it's more lenient on my capabilities, and I kind of don't necessarily. This is where I kind of fail as a coach or as a teacher, because I don't necessarily have a good way of describing how I actually distinguish between each. I just go off of feel.
Sure.
Which is kind of unfortunate because I should have a better way of describing this. But at the end of the day, it really just comes down for me that I know that after the throw, it's going to be very difficult for me to get a knee, so I opt for an up air.
Yeah.
And if I know, okay, this is not hard, as long as they DI in, I can literally just like spam full hop, like or not spam, but like easily like get frame one full hop and easily just instant knee, and it'll connect on like when I'm port 4. But what I was trying to get at is that I prefer port 4 just because that extra frame of like, or that one less frame, because that's how it works, right? You have one less frame of throw when you're port 4 or when you're the higher port, so the one closer to 4. You have one less frame of recovery on your throw. And so that really comes into handy a lot of times. And I find that like if you can get port 4, get port 4. It makes throw combos a lot easier in my mind. Maybe either it's placebo or it actually does. I don't know. But I really recommend that because I feel like if you were port 4 here, this would have been a much more true knee. But at the end of the day, it's not a bad knee to necessarily go for, though, just because of the fact that I think that actually might have been, what is this, before the knee. So let's actually look at what the flowchart would have said. So 96 after throw. 90. And I think it's after throw. I think that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah, I believe it's after throw is the percentage, not before the throw. I could be wrong, though.
Okay.
I think it is because after throw 31. Yeah, that makes more sense. Or maybe not. Maybe it's before throw.
Well,
either way, it fits in.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. Yeah, exactly. Port 1, it says DI in, so DI Wade dash full hop up air, 65% plus on port 1. So it's not a true knee when you are
when you're the lower port.
Lower port, exactly. When you're higher port, though, what is it? 92, 96, same thing. DI Wade dash full hop knee.
Yeah, 92.
There you go. So that is why I really, really, really love Port 4 against Sheik and Marth, because it makes it so much easier to get these like optimal punishes with knee. Whereas you lose that at that percent, like look at it. You look at Port 4, the throw flow chart, and it's got like a whole extra 2 percentage ranges for Port 4, and there's only the single one after 65% for Port 1. So you lose out on like 2 flowchart situations, paths, because you're at lower port. So I really, even if it comes down to you being like, oh, we have to RPS for port.
Yeah, go for that.
You know what's really...
I'm actually I'm surprised that I didn't, because I don't know. I guess the aura of Omar sitting down at the setup. I don't know.
It's too much for you. You're just like, oh shit.
Yeah, I was too shook.
And if you really feel like they're a pushover, you can grime it and be like, if once you lose, be like best two to three, and then you have a chance to redeem yourself. And then that way,
dude, this is okay. Now we have to put this on listed. I can't let anyone know my tactics. That's genius.
That won't always work, because they'll be like, nah, we already did it. But there's a chance that they actually might. I've never done it before, but I know it'll work just because of how a lot of melee players are kind of pushovers, or just like not necessarily pushovers, but just like chill.
They're too nice.
They're too nice, right? You know, some are pushovers, but the majority of it's just they're just too nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one little technique. All right, let's see what you do when he's in invincibility. Ooh, stationary. You thought he's gonna hit you.
In shield. Yeah.
Yeah. Just go
and let go shield right when
he hits you too.
Yeah.
Just go to ledge here, man, or try and play around the platforms. You know.
Yeah.
Again, a stationary object is considerably easier to hit than a moving object.
It's super weird, because if my game plan is to not get grabbed, this shield is like not good.
No, exactly, right? Like your entire, and Sheik is like, would love a grab at this percentage, you know, maybe not necessarily in this position, but in general would love a grab in this position because it leads to such a juicy tech chase. Unless you have like really good, like, unless they're late and you're able to, crouch cancel it and maybe get an ops attack. But besides that, literally majority of it comes down to like, they get a grab here, it's really good position. Omar just messes up. He just wasn't positioned correctly, that's why. I think he should have just stayed right here, actually. Sorry, I don't mean to coach Omar, but if he just stayed here, he could have easily have like jumped and then reaction bear too, instead of having to dash in. Okay. And then you messed up a shield drop. Whoa, letting it fly, eh?
Yeah.
Singlet in there, and then you're like, oh, that whiffed. I'm impatient, gonna go in.
Yeah.
He doesn't punish you until you let go of shield and get down tilted. And yeah, you're gonna hold down and then grab, dash attack, and then fair, and you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot wrong here other than the impatience. You spot dodge here, which actually isn't horrible. I mean, shield is probably shield's just better.
It's definitely not on purpose.
Yeah, it's not on purpose. But shield's definitely the better option. And then not only that, but then you also shield and then spot dodge again because you meant the shield drop. So you messed up 2 shield drops. One of them being the first one, which was a bad shield drop. If it was a shield drop, I don't actually know how you got spot dodge. I'm just assuming that it was. Second one was obviously just you messed it up and you couldn't even get like closer to Omar, or at least just in a better position. And then not only that, but you fall off side platform with a nair, which is like not a good option versus Sheik at all. It's better to be like fully falling down than it is to fall down a platform. In general, actually, it's better just to not run off platform and do moves. Wave landing is a different story, but like running off is not as good. And then not only that, but then you also get antsy and try to go for a grab. You shield, and then you also, I mean, he should have grabbed you, and then he didn't. And then your mind's like, okay, I got to move. And then you don't actually realize that you're in a really disadvantaged situation, in which case you actually just have to roll. And then it all just comes full circle, and then he gets a tech chase because you get up attack, and then you're dead here. Because he easily reacts and then just gets a dash attack fair.
But and so there's another spot where I DI'd that out because I'm like, okay, combo DI mode. I want to make this fair hard. But I actually think DIing in there and going to top plat is like
better.
Definitely the answer.
Yeah, DIing up and in is the answer here for sure if you can. Because at worst you're going to, still get faired, but you're in center stage and you have ability to DI better. Or you have, you're not as far off stage or closer to off stage.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the best case situation, best case scenario is you're going to be able to, potentially force him to have to go to top platform and tech chase or try to tech chase you on top platform where you can't really get as easy of a punish or punish at all, depending on how good they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just want you to notice how he reacts to you being an invincibility. Look at how he's moving. He's trying to evade you. He's rolling. He's doing everything in his power to basically move around you.
Yeah,
he
get out of there.
Get out of there, right? So he opts to, instead of going to ledge, he opts to just stay on stage, which again, there's no reason not to because he's up 3 stocks to 1. So in his mind, I don't need to go to he's not scared.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. He's still trying to evade your moves. And he catches you out. Yeah, and right there, then again, another situation where you get faired or you get hit and you're like, you didn't get knocked down, and then you're kind of in an awkward spot.
Yeah,
And instead of kind of giving yourself a second, sometimes you just give yourself a second. Even though it's not the best because Sheik probably wants to get a grab, it's in a lot of matchups, it's okay to just take a second instead of you immediately acting and then, doing something you don't want to do, like jumping again.
Doing some panic option.
Option, like a spot dodge here, right? Like you could have just shielded and waited a second. You would have been fine.
Yeah.
Instead you do...
Oh, got the hold down there.
You got the hold down there, which is great. Down throw, which is good. That's good. Grab. Yep, that's good. And then you try to go for a reaction.
Yeah.
Which again, you just can't do it. You can't reaction tech chase Sheik with grabs. No matter what anyone tells you, tell them they're dumb and they're wrong, and they can't do that. Because tech away and tech in are the same until frame 8. It's tech animation they're the same, or I forget which one it is, but you can't. I know you.
I think it's Tekken and Tekken Place have the first 8 same 8 frames.
Yes, so you can't.
I remember Sechi dropped this video where it was theoretical reaction where he's like, yeah, if you look at the scarf on her left arm, the third pixel is a little different on frame 4, so you can look for that. And I was like, oh, okay.
No one's gonna do that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's insane. That's if you can see the the
magic pixel.
The magic pixels, yeah. Not a bad nair. If he forward tilted, it wouldn't have been. The thing is, this is not a bad percent to nair, because if they're gonna trade with you, because you're low enough percent where you're not knocked down, and they're high enough percent where they can't, that they're knocked down, right? So trading there is not bad. That's when nair's not horrible. It's not great, but it's a lot better, right? That's when you can start incorporating nair when Sheik's a little bit higher percent and they're trying to trade with you. And you're low percent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you go for the knee read, which is fine. You're dash dancing, get the grab. Nice.
Yeah, see, there's the tech out on platform.
Yeah.
He does that a lot.
Yeah, tech out. Yeah, exactly. What you can do here, actually, I don't know if you can do this on Marth, but I don't know if you can do this on Sheik. But, let me see actually if it's a thing. Up throw plat. There it is. Right here. Sechi made another video on it a long time ago. Let me see. Is it going to load for me? Yeah, here it is. Exactly the situation. So you can up air it. What else is there? Could you have up aired this one?
Yeah, I definitely think so.
No, you couldn't have. I don't. Or maybe you. I think you. No, I think you might have actually. I think it's because you wave dashed.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. No, you jumped. I don't think you could have. I think it was too. Yeah, he's too low percent. That's why.
Gotcha.
Yeah, too low percent. So it doesn't go high enough that you have time, like, because you're not at a throw until then. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Right here.
Mm-hmm.
You threw. Yeah, you basically, you couldn't have. So there, yeah, that's hard. I should go for a read here. Probably would have done the same thing you would have done. Or I would have went for a safer shark underneath up air just because. Just because then I don't force myself into be on the same level as Sheik, right? Because now you're in a rough spot, right?
Yeah.
Most people would have up aired to cover tech in place and tech in, and some people would have need. If I was confident they were going to tech in, I would have need. Otherwise, I would have shark up aired and then done it late enough so that if they slid off, I would be able to not. I wouldn't get cheesed by that slide off. Either way, you went for the ballsy one, which covered pretty much only tech in place.
Yeah.
Only tech in place or missed tech.
Yeah.
In which case, Omar grabbed that for days and then gives you for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or should have.
Oh, live it?
Classic knee. Yeah, and then you're dead.
Yeah.
And then the visible frustration too.
yeah. I think I'm probably gonna call it here. Getting this has been good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This is super helpful though. So I think I'm definitely interested in like trying to do this on some regular cadence. Does that, with most people, do you do regular cadence or do you do like a one-off thing whenever people like message you?
It's whenever. It's up to you. I'm pretty available for the most part recently.
Okay.
So, and like I'm pretty much always free every day past like 7 p.m.
Okay.
So it literally whenever you feel that it's fit, I just recommend that there's at least a decent amount of time between each session, just so you have time to apply certain things or to develop certain things further or think about things or whatever. That's usually at least a 2-week span, typically.
Yeah.
Some people are able to, incorporate things quicker or feel like they need to, or feel like they are capable of doing one sooner, but I typically don't think it's necessary. Especially since I feel like we went over a decent amount of things. Now, again, we also went over a lot of mentality and a lot of abstract things and a lot of, things that aren't necessarily easily applicable. Or able to be applied necessarily, but I think you have the idea now on certain things, and you can also look back on the VOD at any time and kind of see if there's anything, just check out what we talked about previously. I had some bots in my chat.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Some Russian bots. That's interesting. But no, you have the ability, and again, you can ask me questions anytime. I'm more than happy to answer them as best of my ability through DMs or like a quick voice call if you really need to.
Okay.
But yeah.
Cool. I'm actually, so I think usually probably like 3 weeks might be wise, but I'd like to tentatively say 2 weeks from now, because what I'm thinking is I was planning on writing down game plans for different characters that I'm playing against a lot recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be, on top of like, if we want to do more VOD analysis, that might be an interesting exercise, just talk through like my game plan and talk about what is missing or what you disagree with or stuff like that.
Yeah, that's totally a good idea. Just theory crafting, like brainstorming and theory crafting, is something that is very, very crucial actually. Because again, there's the optimal things to do, but there's more to the game than just what's optimal. And you can get a lot off of just like going with what other people tell you to do all the time, but it's also very crucial to just kind of challenge what they do and then also come up with your own things, and then also maybe solidify what you already know and or replace it with things that are not necessary or not the best thing to do. Like you said, just kind of go through and see what is good with your matchup knowledge or your game plans in general, and what's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm going to end the recording now.